Knon 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. KNON's been named the #1 radio station in Dallas by both the Dallas Observer and D Magazine. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227, or extension 233. For more information, go to knon.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.
Get off my lawn.
Watergate! Watergate!
Jim Schutze. Am I on the air? Oh, good. Jim Schutze. Back with Get Off My Lawn. And here with Eric Celeste. Glad to be here. I almost didn't make it today. I had a brush, and I shouldn't talk about it. I'm afraid I'll be misinterpreted as this will sound racist or bigoted. I don't mean it that way at all. I think that there are really legitimate cultural differences regarding traffic,
right?
Depending on our nation of origin. And I went through I was through a construction site that almost got me. I think when you have people from other countries who are running the traffic through construction sites, they give them that sign that says stop on one side and kind of go on the other. They need to give them one that has a third side that says take a chance.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Well, they may have just been messing with the gringos.
They didn't like my looks.
Just waving through on both ways.
Eric, I don't know how to say this, but I may have to ask you to leave.
Oh. Why is that, Jim?
Well, I'm trying not to be. I'm trying to rise above this. But I had an experience this week that was, I don't know how to, I'll just tell you.
Tell me.
I was walking my dog in East Dallas, and which I do a lot, and there's this guy I run into who likes to talk. I try to avoid him, but I have to come out of the alley at some point.
Right.
And so he stops me, and he says he's listening to our show, and he likes it, and this is his quote. He says, "It's gotten interesting since that Celeste came on."
What does he mean by interesting?
You find that amusing, I guess. It's gotten interesting since that. Are you trying to undermine me, Eric?
Well,
is that the?
I've been very clear. I want your salary since I walked in the door.
Some people might think you try a little too hard to be interesting, you know.
Well, they should talk to my girlfriend. But on the radio, I just light up, Jim.
Yeah.
I'm a natural.
I'm just kidding you. I'm kidding you. I'm 21 years old. I have a thick skin.
Oh.
All those other things people say.
Thick, sweaty skin today.
I feel very vulnerable. I didn't see this coming, Eric. It just it sounded like a freight train. So
well, I've been right in front of you, Jim. You should have seen it coming. That's age again.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Anyway, down to business. When we were sitting out in front, and of course, Eric, I was just kidding. I love having you here, and you're not a threat to me in any way. I want you to know that, okay?
And I haven't been since you were my teacher and I was your student at SMU, Jim.
Actually, you have been since you were my student. If you didn't just know it. But sitting outside, you said you had a bow to put on the thing. Last time we talked about Rebecca Rodriguez, who's was the head FLAC PR person at the school district. She is now separated from the district, however we describe that.
Yeah, and she went out with guns firing and accused Mike Miles of things, and there's been an investigation about this. And so we talked last week about the report that detailed how all this came down.
Right.
And one of the key things that's been in the media, and that I said, and that you've said, and everyone has said, is one of her contentions is the Miles pulling something from the agenda at the last minute, and her not knowing about it, undermined her and looked, in her mind, looked shady, and she wasn't going to be a part of it because
something wrong with it, like it was corrupt.
Like it was corrupt.
Yeah.
And that she only knew an hour before the board meeting that this had been pulled.
Right.
So I got an email that I thought was a great point that I just want to read from somebody who has been in media and has also for many years run a corporate communications department at a large organization, so understands this ground, knows how these things happen. And this person says, Eric, you stated a point that all the media are repeating, but is not totally true. At least it's misleading. It's this notion that Rodriguez only found out about the agenda item an hour before the board meeting.
Right.
Says that's technically true, but only because she ignored her staff. In the report on page 13, I like it when someone gives me the page number so I don't have to look it up. Rodriguez states that this person Pennell, who's mentioned in the report, the person who Miles told, hey, yank this off the item the night before, tried to contact her. Says she tried to call her at 9:12 p.m. that night and then emailed her at 10:55 p.m. asking her to contact her ASAP. Then the first thing that person did the next morning is to go to Rodriguez's office and try to talk to her. She went out of her way to let her know what was going on. Rodriguez doesn't dispute that. That means she had no problem going 10 hours between checking her email.
Yes.
Or she ignored the email. Both are bad answers if you're supposed to be a PR communications leader. And I think that's true. You know, I've said before, my girlfriend's in corporate communications, PR, and it gets really annoying. You know, she'll have the phone out at dinner.
Right.
She'll have it during a movie.
Yeah.
She'll have it at night, you know, and it's on all the time, and it gets annoying. And she says, look, I'm expected. If something goes on, if something's on the news tonight, if something happens that we're not aware of, that's coming down, it doesn't matter if it's 11 o'clock at night. We're expected to be within 15 minutes, get back to our supervisors and start planning.
So how many hours was she off the radar?
So that's 10 o'clock until after 9 the next morning, right?
Yeah, and you know, come to think of it, I mean, that's an excellent point. I have my issues with John DeLander, who's been the spokesman for the district forever and ever.
Right.
But I have to say, if I ping him with an email, he's back within 10 minutes, and he's probably going to say, "I'll need some time to get you." But he tells me something,
right, and
which tells me
which
he's
is standard operating procedure.
Yeah, so
in that world,
he's watching. Yeah, well, that's an excellent point. Speaking of that world, I want to talk about Mike Snyder.
Jane and Mike Snyder.
Yeah, and Mike Snyder is the PR guy who the Morning News exposed as having authored fake Facebook personas, and there's been this absolute clamor. I look at it as the typical Dallas posse lynch party, saying that Mike Snyder's got to go. And implying, the tone I get from the criticism is that Mike Snyder, well, first of all, maybe you should explain to people why he would have faked these. He was faking them why? To do what?
So, and I'm going off of news reports also. Yeah. Actually, at Tim Rogers, the editor, has been much more covering this Museum Tower versus Nasher issue. But what he tried to do was, you know, if you look at the social media blogosphere discussions about this issue, the Museum Tower glare hitting the Nasher and trying to come to some resolution about this, and both sides being unable to. I think it's pretty safe to say it's, you know, runs 80-20, 90-10 against Museum Tower in that world, in the commenters and the bloggers who weigh in.
I'd say 98.2%.
Right.
Yeah.
So what Snyder tried to do, apparently, was get into that world and make some of the points that Museum Tower once made to counter some of that, because it seemed and was so one-sided against Museum Tower. So to do that, instead of doing it as Mike Snyder, representative of the pension fund that owns Museum Tower,
and known TV guy,
known guy in this market, 30 years at KXAS Channel 5 as the lead anchor. Instead of doing that, he created, it was on, I believe on November 2nd, a week after Tom Luce had withdrawn as mediator between the two sides.
Right.
Snyder created 2 fake Facebook personas.
Made up people on Facebook.
Totally made them up.
Yeah.
Made a background, said they lived in Dallas. And then after that, started using those, because you have to use Facebook, or one of the ways you get into these commenting systems is to log in through your Facebook profile.
Right.
So it says who you are and your background.
Now, you could have a Facebook profile, Mike Snyder, yourself, and you could log in, use that to log into the blog, and then you could comment under a fake name. You can have a made-up name on the blog.
You can have it gets a little complicated. Depending on the blog, it used to be a lot easier. Most of them now, a lot of them don't take anonymous comments, or if they do, they have to be approved by somebody first.
Okay.
Usually if you log in through Facebook, it links directly to that Facebook page. So that's why you had to create a fake Facebook page.
So you can't be anonymous unless you have a fake Facebook page.
Yeah, or unless you log in as just a guest. I think the Observer's is the same way. I think I can get in there and not say who I am.
Well,
but I have to at least type in an email and make up a name and that sort of stuff.
And when we say that the sentiment in the city, meaning everybody on the blogs, everybody who writes a blog, everybody who comments on a blog, and in the major media, everybody on the editorial page, everybody is 98% pro-Nasher Museum, anti-Museum Tower. I have a caveat. I think that's true. I think if you count up the people who comment regularly on the blogs, and you count up the people in the media who write about it, you got about 20 people.
That could be. It might be 30 people, but it's a
tiny
small
universe.
Number, sure.
So you can tilt it one way or the other.
It certainly doesn't hurt if you've got well-reasoned arguments. If you can get into the sort of, and it depends on the blog, and how many commenters usually get on to a story and who they are. This is one of the things that I think a lot of people, especially folks like Mike Snyder, who maybe are a little older, aren't as familiar with this world, don't understand, is most people look at these and look at that commenting group and dismiss 80 to 90% of it. You look for the people who are unusually tied in, making really excellent points, and focus on those. And so that's what Snyder was trying to do. He was trying to be one of those when you go to a story and you go, oh, there's a whole bunch of, it's like if you read anything in the morning news about Obama, right? You'll have just basically 25 racists jump on there, and then you might have 1 or 2 people on either side make really good comments, and you focus on those.
And do you think this is fair? Because I've certainly been aware, because I, like everybody else in the business, live and die on the blogosphere these days, that there are always interested insider commenters under fake names. You can tell who they are because they know too much.
Yep.
We welcome them because they bring interesting information to bear that they wouldn't bring to bear if they had to be named.
Sock puppets is what they're normally called. I know we had, when I went to Atlanta for a year, one of the first things the news guys there did was identify the sock puppets to me.
Right.
This guy actually works at City Hall.
Yeah.
Types under this name. This person does this. They always type under this name. And the other commenters call that person out, and vice versa.
Because they sense it. But also, I've been sort of reading about anonymous and pseudonymous writing in our American history. The first big discussion of liberty in this country started in 1720 when these things started appearing in American newspapers called Letters from Cato. C-A-T-O, not his real name. We had Common Sense, the famous pamphlet by Thomas Paine. Thomas Paine's name was nowhere on it. And there's a tradition of anonymous speech which is protected by law. It's an American tradition. It's an assumption of the law that you'll get freer speech if people can do it anonymously. And that's, you know.
I think that's absolutely true. I think in this case there's two problems with that. One is that Snyder didn't have to be anonymous. If that makes sense if you've got a job. You know, I've been writing about Irving and crazy stuff going on in Irving for a while. Yeah. I've got a couple people who would absolutely lose their job if they were found out. And I don't know if they're getting on there and talking in the blogs or not, but they bring relevant information to the table. Snyder didn't have to do that. He could have used his name, and there was no real reason to. And the other problem is, then the second problem is, what it does do, though, is, legitimate or not, give the other side a way to say, you're too scared to even put your name on this.
It makes you vulnerable, but as far as his not having to give his name, the other thing that's on the blogs all the time, especially in campaign season, is people who are paid to do it. They work for agencies, they're hired to go out there and comment, and we all know they're there, and they don't want to be identified because they don't want to be identified as paid.
Right. But that doesn't mean you sanction it as a PR person. When I worked for Watkins, I went in there, and the first thing I found out was who the people on the campaign were who were doing just that.
Yeah.
And I said, we're not going to do that.
We had a big thing at the Observer in 2010 when we were getting comments alleging that Jonathan Neerman, the Republican county chairman, was under criminal investigation by the DA, and we looked at the IP addresses and saw that those were coming from computers in Watkins's office.
Right. And I have no doubt that was true. Do you want to come back, or
let me? Okay, we'll come back. Wiley H., I want to talk to you, man.
Yeah.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227, or extension 233. For more information, go to KNON.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.
When they're gone for good. This is Scott from KNON's Texas Blues Radio telling you don't miss out on some great blues. KNON's Texas Blues Radio Volume 5 Blues CD. It's a CD put together by real blues fans for real blues fans like you. Texas Blues Radio Volume 5 features great local blues from Michael J. and the Paul Bird Band, JJ and the Detonators, the Chris Watson Band, the Two Tones, Rough Cut Blues Band, Jeff Stone with Charlie Love, Dave Millsap, Sirloin and the Ass Kicking Machine, Tutu Jones, Blues Boy Bo, Buddy Whittington, Andrea Dawson, Kirkland James, Sonny Colley, and Johnny Red and the Roosters. Get a copy now at Forever Young Records in Grand Prairie, Recordtown in Fort Worth, and in Dallas at Bill's Records. This is a Dallas Blues collector's item. A very limited amount of vinyl copies can be found at Forever Young Records, the sponsor of this great blues project. CD downloads are available at cdbaby.com. Whether you get it as a download, on vinyl, or on CD, all the proceeds will benefit KNON. For more info on Texas Blues Radio Volume 5, visit knon.org.
My pappy said, son, you're going to drive me to drinking if you won't quit driving that old hot rod liquor. The Knon 30th Anniversary Concert Series is kicking off on Friday, August 9th, with a CD release party for the Titan of the Telecaster, Bill Kirchen. Bill Kirchen's latest CD is entitled Seeds and Stems, and his Dallas CD release party is Friday, August 9th at Fort David's Pub. You've heard Hot Rod Lincoln, Down to Seeds and Stems Again, Too Much Fun, Rockabilly Funeral, I Don't Work That Cheap on Knon. Now come out and see the former singer and guitarist for Commander Cody and the Lost Planet Airmen live in concert. Charlie Don't Park from KNON's Rockabilly Review will be spinning tunes between bands. Joining Bill Kirchen will be the legendary Cartwrights, featuring Donnie Ray Ford, Barry Cuda, Alan Woolley, and Ron Gully. Opening the show will be Dallas's newest star, Kristen Harris. Get your tickets now at knon.org, Bill's Records, or Forever Young Records in Grand Prairie. Doors will open at 7 p.m. and a free barbecue dinner will be provided by Two Guys in a Pit Barbecue. Free barbecue while it lasts. That's Friday, August 9th, Poor David's Pub, 1313 South Lamar in Dallas. Bill Kirchen, the Cartwrights, Kristen Harris, and free barbecue. We'll see you there.
Get off my lawn.
Jim Schutze, back with Get Off My Lawn with Eric Celeste. We want to mention to you, this is we're in the pledge drive phase, and you can you can make a difference. You can help keep us here, keep us on the air, help keep Dallas's best independent radio station on the air. Call us up at 972-647-1893, 972-647-1893. We have a special offer right now, only for this hour. For any pledge over $10,000, Eric Celeste will marry you. And it's not a gender-specific thing or anything. Eric will marry anybody who calls up with over $10,000.
Without question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will for anything over $5. I'm involved in a marriage now that will complicate things.
Well, she'll understand.
I'll do what I can. It's for the station.
And if I could appeal to the D Magazine readers who like listening to the city issues on KNON, I'm going to go all Wick Allison on you for a minute. Do it right now. Thousands. Yeah. Make the call. So give us a call, 972-647-1893. We have a caller who I hope is still holding. Wiley H., are you still there?
Wiley. I am. I'm still here.
Wiley H., are you distorting your voice, sir?
You don't think this is my natural voice?
It's okay. No, I think it's a great voice. I meant nothing by that. I'm sorry. Sir, what are you
I'll use the next one.
Are you calling us to talk about Mike Snyder?
Yeah, well, Mike Snyder and the whole pension fund thing, yes.
So what are your thoughts?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, and I think Eric alluded to this earlier, is you have Mike Snyder, who his biggest asset is the moral authority, and it's from being the anchorman here in Dallas for 20, 30 years.
Right.
So instead of using that, instead they pay him to kind of be the crazy guy in his boxer shorts up in the attic typing away under these, aliases. It just seems silly to me.
Pseudonym.
He would have been much more effective being Mike Snyder.
And we should point out that Wiley H., if this is you, and we have no way of knowing, but that some of the comments that are mentioned in the morning news story, which broke this, were comments that the fake personas Snyder made in reply to you, and comments that you were putting on the D blog and in other blogs, I assume.
Yeah, that's correct.
Your perspective, and you show up on our blogs at the Observer. Your perspective on this issue has been generally favorable toward the Nasher, the people who say they're getting too much light reflected on them. Is that fair?
Actually, this is kind of interesting, and if you look at the comments I was posting that day, I'm relatively agnostic about that issue. My concern is more with what I perceive to be the mismanagement of the pension fund itself. And I think the Nasser deal is just kind of, yet more collateral damage that the pension fund is kind of, going about wreaking havoc. And that's another irony I wasn't even going to bring up, but, in fairness, the museum tower was built to code. They didn't do anything illegal. So I was relatively neutral, but then I got to get so, particularly after that thing, I'm like so pissed off. I'm like, whenever somebody posts something negative about museum tower, I'll give them a thumbs up.
But your issue here is more with Snyder's fake personas, his fake.
Yeah.
Now, I have a confession to make, Mr. H. I need to tell you something.
Yes.
This week I was sort of noodling around with some analytical software. It has nothing to do with our servers at the Observer or anything. Totally, I wasn't even in the Observer building. And I was able to look at the instances where you have gone to Facebook from a mobile device in the last few months. And I see that you've accessed Facebook from within City Hall, but also from within the Dallas Morning News building, which raises the question: do you work for the news?
No, but I'm delighted to see that somebody picked that up. That's done intentionally, but very subtly, and I figured at some point somebody would see some of the interesting places I check in from.
You check in from a lot of good bars too in that area around there,
which would be more where I would know you from.
Yeah. So I mean, I see somebody carrying a iPad or an iPhone around and checking in from here and there, but not everybody gets inside the Morning News building. Man, they got some serious security there.
They do indeed. Yeah.
Yeah. So I find myself coming back to my question, because we've got Snyder on the hook for faking his personas to help out Museum Tower, and we got the Morning News hanging him out to dry. They're back at him on the editorial page today. It's almost like the guy's guilty of identity theft and so on. I asked George Rodrigue, the managing editor of the Morning News this week, two things. I said, did you use information from your servers to catch Mike Snyder? And he said yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, did you do the same search on Wiley H? And he said, no. We see no connection between Wiley H and Mike Snyder. I have to come back to my question, though, Mr. H, please. Do you work for the Morning News?
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Are you supposed to work for them?
I think you'll see that. No, I think if you look at some of my comments, you'll see, not so much lately, but I've made some pretty scathing comments about the Morning News, which in the past.
Well, that doesn't disqualify you from working there.
There's another detail, though, Wiley. Let me throw this additional detail in. There is a gentleman whose name is Wiley, who works for a company that is in what we call the reputation business here locally, and would that be you? Any chance? Are you in the?
No, if my real name was Wiley, then I'd be, I'd call myself something else. I don't know, Sarah or Becky or something.
Yeah, although, it's funny. In the realm of made-up names, it's amazing how often people actually use some kind of version of their real name. But anyway, I didn't. What do you think, Eric? Is this?
Well, first of all, I'm entertained by your trying to nail him down here. But number two, I think, from what I'm hearing you say, Jim, you think this is hypocritical of folks to attack him for being anonymous when it's part of the game. Everybody does it, and they could target other people if they wanted to.
That actually, that's part of my point. But here's the other part of my point. I spent a bunch of time reading the Morning News' privacy policy, and and I was warned by the Observer they said, look, it's going to have all this stuff about we protect your privacy. Then it's going to have some out language at the bottom. We don't protect it if we don't feel like it. And they said, we have the same thing. Everybody has the same thing.
Right.
So, indeed, I read their privacy policy, and it goes on and on about, we will do everything we can to protect your personal information. However, someone could sneak in here and get it, and we can't guarantee that that won't happen. So it sounds to me like the news is going to do everything. They're going to invite me in to comment anonymously. They're going to do everything they can to protect my identity unless they don't like what I'm saying. And then they're going to go into their servers and get information and out me. Mike Snyder was kicked out of a company that he founded. His partners kicked him out because of these stories in the morning news this week. The guy's ruined.
Yes, and it's his fault. I mean, I hear what you're saying. And when I was at D, I remember doing just simple IP address searches to try to figure out who people were. And I never even thought, now that you say that, I thought, well, maybe I should have thought about what our privacy policy was. But the problem to me with Snyder is partially that he did a very dumb thing that a lot of people in that business would tell you, if you get caught,
and you're going to get caught.
You will get caught, and when you get caught, you will go down. The other thing is, to me, it's indicative of the problem with Museum Tower in this entire case, start to finish. Ignoring the glare problem, what they have and as Wiley H. says, they didn't do anything illegal. That's not the point. And other corporate types I talk to say, look, the problem is that they're being bad corporate citizens, and that's an important part of what we take seriously. Our role in the community is really important. And Snyder doing that showed they continue to have contempt for this, for the Nasher's claims, for the community's claims, and all the other things going on in this scenario.
Wiley, let me ask you while we still got you here. You are using software to camouflage your voice. Is that because Eric and I might know you, or because the public might know you?
Any of those.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so it's very important to you to be anonymous.
And
it is, but at the same time, I think about this on a regular basis, is that, at some point, if, my real identity becomes known, is there anything that I've said or written that, I would be ashamed of, or, end up having my partners kick me out of the company? And, I don't think so.
Okay, but it is, if you called me in this voice at home and said, I know where your wife works, bring the money to, it would be very scary. So,
well, I just want to say, I think given what I know of Wiley H., and I'm ready to out that person right now, Jane McGarry, I want to say thank you for calling and contributing to this conversation.
Hey, Wiley, thank you. It's been great chatting with you. Thank you for calling. And we have another caller, Michael, hanging. Before we go there, you brought up corporate citizenship. There are different views of that. The Museum Tower, okay, the Nasher has light catcher tubes on its roof that are aimed at Museum Tower. Museum Tower spent six figures money to have a scientist design different light catcher tubes that look exactly the same, that are aimed in a different direction. The Nasher will not even test them. And I am left to wonder if the Nasher has another agenda here that is not being made public. How do we know the Nasher just doesn't want to leave town anyway because of attendance, and they need a good cover story?
That could totally be true, but I do think it could also be simply they don't think they need to, that they think you're the ones assaulting us with this, because of what we are, and I buy into this. This is an elite arts institution in a city that doesn't have many, and where that has tremendous value. And you know what? They can walk around with they're with their chest stuck out and say, you need to bend to our will. And most people in this city, as they have, will agree to that because you've got a gaudy...
I don't think it's gaudy. I think it's very handsome, but go ahead.
Okay. You have something that when it was going up, I remember talking to real estate people going, before this glare thing, who would pay that kind of money to live right here where there's nothing around it? Okay. And the answer is, as we know, about 6 people.
Under this, okay.
And we could say the glare is the problem, but you've got somebody who is in the Nasher who is considered a treasure from a standpoint that is granted very artsy, very subjective, very all those things.
A treasure, except that the Perot Museum opened and it's immediately such a huge success that they're expanding.
Right.
The Nashers just celebrated their millionth visitor in 10 years.
Right.
It's 100,000 visitors a year. That ain't very good.
Because people like me like the Perot because I could take kids there. I can touch dinosaurs, do whatever. I go to the Nasher. I got a semi-private tour of the Nasher 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. I am not smart enough or cultured enough to appreciate it, but I understand that there are people and that it's important for city to have that.
Maybe they put the Nasher in the wrong city. Maybe it belongs in Paris.
And that, I think that if that's true, it would happen. It doesn't need to happen because of this, because of the museum tower.
But if they leave, if they say, "Oh, Dallas, we're leaving because you're not smart enough," they'll be hated. But if they leave because we were driven out of town by those louts in the pension fund, that looks a little better, doesn't it?
And yet, you've got people who, and maybe you know something I don't, but you've got people who have been in this process, the mediation process, like Tom Luce, who is, fairly respected still
Absolutely,
in this town.
very respected.
Who went in there and just said, hey, these guys aren't negotiating in good faith. So in that scenario, meaning these guys, meaning Museum Tower. So in that scenario, yeah, you can put many possible scenarios into why the Nasher is refusing to listen to Museum Tower's suggested remedies. But to me, the simplest is we don't have to. We shouldn't have to.
I just had we're going to go to a break, but I had a horrible thought. These 2 callers, I wonder if they have money.
Oh.
Damn. Okay.
We'll get them on the other end.
Oh, yeah, please don't go away, especially if you have money.
If it's time to get rid of your old gas guzzler, the Knon Vehicle Donation Program can help. There's still a market for those old vehicles, and if you donate it, you're helping to support quality programming here on KNON. Just call 877-KNON-AUTO or go online to knon.org. We'll take care of everything from pickup to tax paperwork. That's 877-KNON-AUTO or online at knon.org.
The Sons of Herman Lost Disc Airmen Disc Golf Association and the Gas Pipe present the first annual KNON Disc Golf Tournament and After Party on Saturday, September the 7th. The tournament will be held at B.B. Owens Park, located at 10700 Kingsley Road in Dallas, beginning at 4 p.m. There will be goodie bags, games, an ace hole contest, poker run, and more. Then, beginning at 7 p.m., the party starts at the Sons of Herman Hall, located at 3414 Elm Street in Deep Ellum, with free food and live music by Texas Slim, Jay Johnson, and All Lit Up. To register, contact me, Hippie Bobby Wilbanks, at 972-658-8577 or go to knon.org. Participants of the disc golf tournament are admitted free into the after party. But if you just want to go down to the show, you can get tickets at knon.org. That's the first annual KNON Disc Golf Tournament and After Party on September the 7th at B.B. Owens Park, and the after party with Texas Slim, Jay Johnson, All Lit Up, and free dinner at the Sons of Herman Hall, presented by the Sons of Herman Hall, Lost Disc Airmen Disc Golf Association, and the Gas Pipe, the Gas Pipe, the Gas Pipe. This is a KNON benefit event.
This is William, your videographer for the KNON talk shows. You can watch Get Off My Lawn by going to the knon.org website. Click on schedules to the left side of your screen. Choose Get Off My Lawn's page. Scroll to the bottom of that page, then choose your favorite show to watch or download. This show will be ready for viewing by lunchtime Tuesday. Have a great day.
Hey, babes, take one.
Jim Schutze back with Get Off My Lawn and Eric Celeste, and we had this very interesting call from Wiley H. who's just distorting his voice. You know, one of the great innovations of recent years has been caller ID. It's really it's really changed things.
Yeah, it means when I see an 800 number, I don't answer it.
Yeah. So just saying, Wiley, caller ID. And we have, listen, before we get back into this, we have Kenneth on line one, I hope, still. Kenneth, are you still there?
Yes, I am. Jim, I've been reading your articles for years. You write very extensive, comprehensive things that make people think. But recently, I've lost my vision, so I got to find another way to catch up with it, keep up with it. I've been following what's going on down there. I don't know a whole lot about it, but it seems like it's just some hard-headed people just don't want to do the right thing. Maybe we should ask Ross Perot to throw a few dollars their way and solve the problem, because it's only just a few $1 million. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. What's a few million between friends?
Yeah. And my other question, if you don't mind, I was trying to figure out. I hear that the Craig Walker thing is back on, but I heard that the state has picked up the charges to do the further investigation of this Hill guy. My problem was, how come nobody has interrogated Mrs. Blue to find out what she knows what's going on? But I know it's just politics. But another thing, what's going on with John Wiley Price? We ain't heard nothing for that in years, man. What's going on?
Every month or so, I have some guy, a different person every time, calls me up. Inside information, it's going down in 2 weeks. And I've been hearing this for 2 years. And I think there's every possibility that, hey, I know how to make this happen.
How?
I know how to get Commissioner Price indicted. I don't know if I should do it.
So my question is this, I never seen the FBI take this long,
I predict that this is going to happen within the next 2 weeks.
2 weeks? Well, hey, you went ahead of everybody else.
Yeah. Kenneth, thanks. Those are very good questions. Really, thank you for calling. And we want to remind everybody that this is Pledge Drive Week, 972-647-1893, 972-647-1893. Want to invite you to come here August 24 for the Lambda Luncheon and live broadcast honoring special guest former City Councilwoman Angela Hunt. The luncheon is provided by Horrific, and it will be here at our studios, 5353 Maple Avenue, August 24, the Lambda Luncheon honoring Angela Hunt. The broadcast will be part of it. We've been talking about Mike Snyder, anonymity. We got off onto the thing of Museum Tower versus Nasher Museum and Nasher Sculpture Garden. And so that's, I shouldn't go down that trail because I'm not a architecture critic, and
I'm not either. And that's just.
I'm way more interested though in this whole phenomenon, which you mentioned early on, Eric, that there's something generational here, which is an intriguing thought. This whole phenomenon where you have the blogs, and you're invited into them, and people make up names, and people say outrageous stuff. If you read this stuff all the time, you get a vibe. You know who's who just from their tone.
Right.
And you know that somebody's an insider and somebody's not. But then there's this business, and you're going to blame Snyder. I'm also going to blame the morning news of believing in the first place that there's some kind of true anonymity or secrecy or privacy here. The morning news has just demonstrated that there's no privacy if they want to out you. I mean, what is the lesson there for?
Well, don't get caught, I guess, right? Is the lesson. Yeah, if you... I'm trying to think if I've ever done that. You know, we live, you and I, by anonymous sources, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's... People contact you hoping that they can't tell anybody else,
right?
But you can take the bullet for them, get what they will have to say out there. So the idea is that you're talking about, right, is that I should be able to get my information out, maybe what I know, my take that isn't being talked about. And we talk all the time about how the morning news or the mainstream media is only giving you one aspect of a story.
Yeah.
So let's get this out here in this way. Let me go into a place where people are interested in this, go on the blog, comment, but maybe I've got to protect myself. Okay, I see that, but I don't see, in Snyder's case, he was just dumb. I mean, you can't, if you are a paid representative of these folks, because part of the contract of social media, okay, this is different from what the Front Burner or Unfair Park or the Morning News says in terms of protecting my privacy. The contract that is understood among people who've grown up with it is everything here is transparent. If I'm going to engage in this...
You know that.
Yes.
Right. And I think you're absolutely right. But people don't know that. And they can see this facade at the Morning News or at the Observer, which promises, oh, no, you're safe here. Your identity is safe. And it's safe. You know, somebody once asked me, what's the real rule on off the record? Right. And I said, off the record is sacred and inviolable unless what you tell us is too good. And
right. And unless I'm willing to break that for that great piece of information.
Yeah, and the Morning News, I would contend, does protect people's identity, except in this case, if it's somebody who really pisses them off.
Yes, I totally agree, and I have done it. I mean, on the blog, I remember getting really irritated years ago at somebody who was putting stuff up on a topic that I felt was disingenuous and mean-spirited and everything else. And so I did a little IP search, which you could do.
Right.
Figured out pretty easily where he worked. Did just some Google searching, put it together, and then put up a comment that said, well, so-and-so, so-and-so. How do you... Now, when you say it that way, I go, okay, yeah, maybe that was a jerk thing to do. But I think the thing is, you're right. Well, it is a problem.
No,
if you don't understand it, and if the people on the other end don't respect it, it's a problem. I carve out the right to not feel sorry for Snyder.
Okay, I should mention that Rodrigue told me that the only thing the news looked at was IP addresses. And I'm not sure how much difference that makes, but that's what they only looked at IP addresses, which is a very general sort of thing that you can it doesn't really name you or...
No, it can tell you, it depends. If you're at your home computer, it might give me an address, but it'll probably just give me the provider. But if you're at a business, it might give me that business.
Now, the other thing I learned, I didn't realize, but from reading the news's privacy policy, and I'm sure I would find the same from our own, that every time you contact a server system like the news, it scarfs up, oh man, your IP address, your MAC address. It does a census of your browser systems, your fonts, everything. The site you visited before you went to the news, the site you visit after, everything you click on at the news, all this stuff. And I talked to computer security experts who said, taken en masse, no one of those single things identifies you, but taken en masse, it's a fingerprint.
Yeah.
And so every time you contact, they know, if they want to know, exactly who you are. I also had a conversation with our managing editor, Patrick Williams, who said, there's some human nature and there's some aspects of our business that you have to keep in mind, Schutze. He said, let's say you really hate this guy who's commenting, but you can't figure out who he is. And so this nerd from IT walks in and starts punching on your keyboard.
Right.
And there's the guy's name. And Patrick said, you have to account for the half hour of wild rubbing your hands together glee.
Right. and if that's your point, I think it's legitimate. Again, I don't feel sorry for Snyder, but because he should have known better.
Yeah.
But that was a huge problem with Bloomberg recently, right? Where the company that does financial stuff for clients also runs a newspaper. And it turns out that the newspaper reporters were just getting into the system to find out all kinds of information about these huge companies who they were covering. And those companies thought that information was secure and not available to the media side. So, yeah, it's a bad idea to make available to reporters information about people who you want to do stories on if there's some sort of expectation that was private.
And it goes for me. It always goes back to General Petraeus. This gentleman, General Petraeus, was head of the CIA, and thought he could keep his girlfriend secret on the internet. And I would think, yeah, the head of the CIA ought to be able to have a girlfriend on the internet that nobody can find, but no.
Now, there's nothing, and again, I think younger folks understand this. They've come up in this world, and somebody like Snyder, who, professed to be on his LinkedIn page and that said, look, I'm an expert in crisis management, but also in social media and that online world. You can't assume. Matter of fact, you have to believe that every single thing I type can be found out by somebody else. And that's the reason, just from a practical standpoint, in addition to the fact that the people in there are expecting that from you, whatever you say as yourself. You don't set up fake personas, and he should have known better.
Just figure that you're naked in front of City Hall.
Yeah, and that's the best way to do it. Now, are there legal questions that you might bring up in your column this week that these media institutions need to consider? Probably. But I think from a practical standpoint, if you get on a blog, you should assume that at some point, if someone wanted to, they could figure out who you are. So don't comment unless you're okay with it.
Unless you can live with it. Hey, we have 2 callers, I'm sorry, who've been hanging way too long, and we're almost out of time, but let me go quickly. I think Michael's been with us the longest. Michael, I apologize. Are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I'm sorry to make you hang so long. What's up? We just got a little bit of time.
An interesting renaissance. Mike Snyder, sir, marches with Peter Johnson, sir. Mike Snyder marches with, let me just say, we remember our friend Peter Johnson, don't we?
Sure. I hope we're not remembering. There's nothing wrong with Peter, is there?
No, sir. He is my father here in Dallas.
Yeah.
He is my greatest sponsor. Peter has sponsored me since 2002 in Crawford, Texas. He told the police to take their hands off of me. And I have stood with Peter and rode with Peter and marched with Peter and danced with Peter.
And he's a great guy. Michael, the only thing is we're right at the end of our time.
Peter in 2013.
Yeah.
So yes, as Peter said, yes, we do forgive Mike this thing. We ask him to look at himself and find new ways and to make amends. But we do not throw him in the trash, because Mike has walked and marched and stood with us and been spit on and cursed. Mike Snyder and Yoga Cafe one time co-sponsored with WordSpace and Robert Trammell, another sponsor of mine, a reading at Mike Snyder's place. And Mike carried me across the floor, because some people don't appreciate
Michael, this is a fascinating additional insight into Mike Snyder that we didn't have, and I have to let you go because we're running out of time. I got to get to Tony. Thank you very much for calling. And Tony, are you still with us?
Yes. How you doing?
Hey, Tony.
All right. My thing about Mike Snyder is this. When he left, when he didn't get his contract signed with Channel 5. To me, he always had it, and this is from a black perspective. To me, I always questioned his motives anyway, and this kind of threw the fire, saying that I never took his word for what it meant anyway. And my thing is that one thing I like about your show is you give us inside scoop on the media. And if the media wants to be straight, the people in it have to be straight. Because when you write something down in the newspaper, you put your spin on it rather than...
Hey, Tony, I thank you for calling. They're giving me the high sign. And,
okay, all right.
And thanks for coming in. I believe, Eric, that you have a Mike Snyder anecdote that we never...
Well, yeah, I mean, I wish him the best. I hope things go better for him. But this doesn't surprise me because Mike has been a guy who... You know, like we've talked about TV guys before, was kind of a blowhard. I mean, I remember being at a Dallas Press Club event in 1992 or so, and it was right after the Gulf War, and a guy who was the former press secretary wrote a book and came to talk to us about what that was like. And this was just an informal chat. And in the middle of this, Mike Snyder stood up and started pointing at this guy and saying, are you going to stand here in front of the American people and try to tell them that, and just began to filibuster this guy, and everybody in the room just sort of sank down into their chairs going, what in the world is he doing? Well, look, this is, if again, in the TV news world, he was talent. Talent wins, talent does whatever it wants. You get out of that and you realize that when you're working for these people and you're working in the public arena, you've got to be humble first and transparent first and humble second.
Yeah.
And I think that's what came out here, that he thought he could get away with something, and that you know, people should take away from this. That's a bad idea.
Yeah, and my caveat is that I think that Mike Snyder's perception that the deck was stacked against Museum Tower and something had to be done to get their point of view through this barrage of media and establishment opinion. I think Mike Snyder is justified in that opinion, and I think he was justified in trying to get Museum Tower's point of view out there. This can be a very one-horse town.
It can be. And by the way, the force of your argument can make a difference. And if you're Mike Snyder, not made-up person, your argument carries more weight, and he should have done that.
Yeah, okay, all right. But then again, we have a right to be anonymous. We have a right to be Wiley H. Call people up with a scary, distorted voice that sounds like something from a noir movie.
I'm not defending Wiley. I hear your point there.
Yeah. And Wiley, please keep doing it. Wiley writes great comments. And the great thing from a media point of view is that guys like Wiley provide content that is, from our point of view, free. We don't have to pay him.
Great insight. Yeah. And then we can just blog about that.
That's right. It's great stuff. We're getting money out of Wiley H. So, Jim Schutze and
Eric Celeste
with Get Off My Lawn. See you back here next week, same time, same place. Bring your checkbook, okay? Bye.
KNON 89.3 FM in Dallas and Fort Worth, the voice of the people.
Business owners, tell KNON's listeners about your business. You can put your business or event on KNON. KNON currently has space available to run announcements for you. Tell KNON's listeners about your goods, services, nightclub, concert, or event. Help keep the voice of the people on the air while putting your information on the air. KNON's been named the #1 radio station in Dallas by both the Dallas Observer and D Magazine. Put your business with Dallas's #1 station. Call now for more information at 214-828-9500, extension 227, or extension 233. For more information, go to KNON.org and click on the Run Spots on KNON page. It's a great way for your business to support community radio while letting more people know about you.